Hello and welcome to UAT Time within the United Countries Special by First Ukraine. You can find us on the frequencies available on our website, firstuaid.com. I'm Sergey, Velichanskiy.
And I am Olivier Vedrine. UAT Time is dedicated to bring Ukraine and Europe closer to each other by introducing the real Ukraine to the rest of the world.
It's been 2 years after Crimea annexation, and it is at this time that the Ukrainian security services have released documents showing who did what back then. Was that a betrayal, annexation, occupation, or a sale?
Our guest today is Maxim Iali, Senior Research Fellow at the Ukrainian Institute of World History.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for stopping by. And actually, in the Kyiv Post, there is a good recap on things that took place in Crimea back then. So, what do you think? What did happen back then? Was that a sale by the top government officials, or was that a negligence, or what do you think? What was it?
Well, I'm not sure, and definitely think that it was not a sale.
Okay.
But from another point of view, as you know, last week's top news, the transcript of the meeting of the Security and Defense Council shows that time the government officials were not ready for that things, because there was so-called vacuum of power. Yanukovych just escaped, and they were not just ready, I suppose, to take such responsibility, to react in appropriate way.
Yeah, I think for me, the government in those times was very weak, and I think Putin took an opportunity to take Crimea back. Only.
Exactly.
Well, it's. I've read an interview. Well, first of all, in those documents that the security services released, we see that some of the officials wanted to use force, and some said, "Let's not do anything because we're going to lose." Then I read another interview of a general staff chief back then. Well, he was right prior to the revolution as a general staff, and he was fired because he didn't want to use the force on Maidan. He said that even in January of 2014, there were already a lot of information about the things that took place in Crimea, and they had sent about 300 paratroopers there. They had kind of tried to be prepared to take some actions, but they didn't get an order to do so. And he says that we had the strength to keep Crimea, to not let it go.
But as you say, they never received the order.
Yes.
Well,
they never received the order.
There is plenty of information of different officials, especially during last few weeks. The point is that what is 300 paratroopers, if to take into account that they were about 20,000 Russian soldiers?
Yeah, definitely yes. But what I'm saying is, he says that two battalions were prepared already, but they never got the order.
But remember, in those times, if we see some reports, in these reports you can find that for the Ukrainian army, they have only 6,000 soldiers in capacity of fighting.
About 5,000.
5,000?
Yeah.
I talked about 6,000, I saw 6,000.
In total, actually.
Yeah, in total, 6,000 for all Ukraine.
Yeah, and besides that, already there were reports that a lot of Russian troops were concentrated on the border with Ukraine.
Yes.
So it was very dangerous to weaken the border. And as we can see from that scripts also, that Western so-called friends of Ukraine strongly advised not to do anything.
Okay.
That's nobody
true.
can show for 100%.
That's true,
but of course,
true.
there was just about 3 days. Most of the experts
you underline a very interesting fact that in those time the army had to secure the borders of Ukraine. And that's, I think, the first key point. The second key point is that, yes, Western countries advised to Ukraine to do nothing, to avoid a war. And the third point is that this government was weak.
Yes, and nobody wants to take such responsibility.
Yeah.
Well,
Besides, we should take into account that there were about 15,000 Ukrainian troops they concentrated, and no, 18, if I'm not mistaken, 18,800, and
In Crimea.
in Crimea, but 15,000 stayed there after the annexation.
so
So
we're-
they betrayed Ukraine.
We're
yeah.
talking about people that, were friends with the families of the soldiers of Russian army for many years. Most of those people were born in Crimea, so they never even identified themselves necessarily as Ukrainians. And so for them, it was not a big choice to.
But another point, because it's very important what you said. Yes, some of them, they stayed in Crimea. Okay. But we know that a large part of them, after the annexion of Crimea, the Russian government sent them to other part of the Russian Federation.
Because nobody likes traitors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
And
betray one,
they send them in Siberia.
yeah. Nobody likes
Yeah.
traitors.
You have to choose a camp, right or left.
Exactly.
So do you think that the government, the Ukrainian government, did everything they could in that situation, given all the things that, they had to use and they had the influence they had?
Well, definitely not. If I can see the results, yeah, because it was already obvious when the process was launched. It was very short period of time to make decisions, and at least they could, when they saw already when Russian troops started blocking military units, and to give order to go to continental Ukraine to save weapons, especially I suppose it concerns ships we lost, because
Yes.
there was during few weeks that show, I would say, and we lost a lot of ships, the majority. We could at least retreat them to Odessa.
Had we used all the information, intelligence information that we had back then in January, but somehow, because, it's like this, if by the information, if according to the general's information, the general chief of staff, that intelligence we had back in January, so definitely that February and March, we could have used that to save the ships, the planes,
Yeah,
and I'm sure that the ammunition storages and
definitely.
that.
Here, absolutely true.
Yeah,
But it's a question, I suppose, to the Minister of Defense that time, because even due to different investigations, many soldiers and officers were ready to act,
yeah.
but there were no orders. Absolutely, they couldn't do it by themselves.
I think this is also a key point. They never received the order. Never,
Exactly.
never.
Well, now with the information that we get as far as, yes, there's a strong advice from the West, and probably the advice could have sounded like, we're not going to help if you engage, so please don't. And so with that information on each side, definitely, and then probably I could probably see how the intelligence could have gone like this. Okay, if you engage in Crimea here, then how about your eastern borders? The information, again, given in the Kyiv Post says about 38,000
Yep.
troops were on the borders.
Yeah.
So had we engaged in Crimea, I could probably give 100% that there would have been an attack. So, by the way,
that was the same during Maidan, because somebody said to me, why during Maidan you didn't kill some deputies in the Rada, didn't kill much people? I said, come on, if during Maidan we did that, the Russian army, they will invaded, they invaded Ukraine. If we no, that was impossible. Then for Crimea, this is the same. I think the Russian was waiting for a mistake.
Yeah, and even from that documents released, there is information that even during that meeting of Security Council, the head of Russian State Duma, Naryshkin, called to Turchinov and threatened him that if you do anything wrong and any actions, Russian soldiers would be in Kiev.
Okay.
So definitely these threats.
I can just see all the pressures that they had. Before we go on, I want to let you know that we are on Facebook. So if you find time and after watching our program, find us on the Facebook, facebook.com/UAT time, and tell us what you think. So the next question would be, why it is only this past week that the security services and the Defense Council they published the transcripts of the secret meeting 2 years ago. Why do you think so?
Well, there is official point of view that they say, as Pashinsky recently said, that we want Ukrainian people to know what was going on, the situation, etc., etc. But definitely, as a political expert, I can definitely say that there are some political reasons. Because, just a week before that, they were just scandal, I would say, political scandal in Verkhovna Rada, when they tried to resign Yatsenyuk government, and they failed. And of course now, when coalition split, that Batkivshina and Samopomich left. So there are now talks about still a new coalition, new government. And of course, most of all suffered of this publishing is Yulia Tymoshenko. Because her point of view on that, her speech on that meeting was that we shouldn't do anything to provocate Russia. And of course, she is one of the candidates to the prime ministers, definitely. And of course, definitely, this transcript would do nothing good, so to say, to her image.
You are right, Maxim. I think the reason is internal policy, but also external policy. Internal policy because of what's happened 1 week ago. And an external policy to show to the Western country that Ukraine is really on pressure with Russia. Russia put the pressure on Ukraine. And I think Ukraine wants to show to the Western country, come on, we really did our best to avoid the war. And please stop the pressure on us. Because look at what we did. We lost Crimea because you said to us, don't go to war. Then I think this is also a message for Western countries.
Probably.
Diplomatic message.
Well, and as a result, actually 2 years, these days, we're talking about a couple of weeks ahead of us as well, but back to 2 years ago, that's when all the things were taking place. And I would say it's about good time to try to evaluate what did Russia gain with that chunk of land, with that good chunk of pie that they had stolen from their brothers. They call us brothers, so good for them. So what did they gain and what did they lose? What do you think?
Well, I suppose we should differentiate 2 points just. What Russian as a state gained or lost,
All right.
and Kremlin, I mean Mr. Putin, the president. If to take internal situation and what Putin gained, so definitely during these 2 years, he managed to consolidate the population of Russia around him.
Yeah.
If you take, for example, public opinion polls before 2012 elections, well, it was about 50% plus minus 5% of support. So official results were 63% he gained, he won. Well, and during last year and a half, his ratings were about more than 80%, not lower than 82.
Yeah.
So he personally, at this point of view, gained, because this external threat, the image of external threat for Russia. But of course, from the point of view of economy, for common citizens of Russia, they definitely lost. Economists estimate the losses, first of all, from sanctions, and I would say not even sanctions, but the drop in price of oil prices from 100 to 500 billion US dollars. So recently, Russian experts estimated that during 3 years from 2014 until 2017, Russia would lose about $700 billion. But another point of view, definitely Russia lost its image.
Yeah.
That's the biggest, I would say.
I think the biggest one, the biggest. Yeah.
Now everybody understood that Russia is a threat.
Yeah.
So they just lost their position in G8. And of course, definitely now Russian business suffered a lot.
Yeah.
They cannot do business as usual as they did, and economy is still suffering. But I suppose most of all, just common Russian citizens lost because of it.
I want to add some analysis for the internal policy of Putin in Russia. Internal policy. Yes, you talked about the support of Putin, but I think the support of Putin is not very serious. You know, as I said, Stalin also had a big support. Nicholas II also had a big support during those times. But I think the support of Putin will end when the Russian people will not have food in the fridge.
Yeah.
And you know, our friend Igor Smeshko said that the end of the Putin propaganda will be when the fridge will be empty. And I'm sure of that. I'm sure, definitely sure of that.
But
and
go ahead.
and that for me, the key point is when the Russian population will stop to believe the propaganda on the television, when they will stop when the fridge will be empty.
Well, but the point is, and the difficulty is that there are no alternatives for the most of population. Of course, young population can search internet and have another point of view.
Yeah.
And we should also stress that it's Russian mentality. Still, the level standards of living are higher than in 1990s, and it will not happen, unfortunately, in the nearest just 1 or 2 years.
You know the Russian history. You know the Russian history very well.
Sure.
Very well. I know you are brilliant. You know, when the Bolshevik took the power, there were very few. And you know that the history of Russia is always the same. Very few people took the power to change Russia. This is always the same. And in St. Petersburg and in Moscow. And what I believe is this: now we have only to wait for this moment, as the Bolshevik waited 1 century ago. And we are in the same logic.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Crimea was quite an exciting and quite looks like it was quite an easy victory for Putin and for his image. That was a major thing. Quick, effective, strategic. So it was very, 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 very well done thing. But it's been 2 years. It doesn't look like he's had victories.
Come on, you think this is? I am agree. This is on the paper. This is a victory, but do you think it's really a victory?
No, I'm talking about
when you are
the
a big country and you take a small part of a weakness country.
I'm talking about the increase of the support of the population. I mean, if we're talking about him as a gambler, the one who is playing, well, he bluffed, and we bought it. He just took the land, and the support had raised, drastically. Well, but it's been 2 years, and so somehow he needs to keep the support. Somehow he needs to feed the beliefs of people who start asking questions.
That's why we received a lot of gets here, and some of them, when we talk about Russia, they said to us that Putin need war to stay in the power.
Actually, that's what he's doing. Now
Syria, for example.
For example.
Now, well, I want us, because we've got several minutes left, I want us to concentrate on the future a little bit, because we can talk a lot about what happened, analyze, so we'll let professionals do that. But what are we looking at? I know people that had they're refugees from Crimea, and they hope to take Crimea back somehow. What do you think? What are the maybe international influences? What is happening, and can we expect a good thing like returning of Crimea in the near future?
Near future.
Well, I would like to be optimistic, but as an expert, if we analyze just Western EU especially, they actually do not discuss Crimea annexation and bringing it back. Now, even if we analyze Minsk agreements, there is nothing said about
nothing about Crimea.
Absolutely
nothing.
So even the ambassador of US just yesterday said that Crimea still is one of the key points of US-Russia relationships agenda, and they remind it constantly. But firstly, the point is, and the aim of EU and US, to stop conflict in Donbass, to stop war there. And then, only after we succeed in that issue, we can come back to Crimea. So definitely, I would like to be optimistic. But as an expert, I don't think that it's the key issue of the nearest future. Until Putin is there in power, that would be very difficult to manage.
Until Putin is in the Kremlin, that will be impossible to take back Crimea.
Definitely.
Okay. After Putin, maybe, but with Putin, nothing. And I think that Putin will do an exchange, give back Donbass, and please, I will stay in Crimea.
Yeah, actually, most experts, even when the conflict in Donbass started, of course, the first aim was just after the victory in Crimea to split just 10 oblasts of Ukraine, so-called Novorossiya project. Yeah, but now just definitely they are bargaining just to stop conflict in Donbass in exchange to leave Crimea.
Yeah. Okay, time is up. We will definitely keep an eye on all the new developments and see how things develop. Definitely something is about to happen because a lot of people are very anxious of some changes for better.
And the problem now is in the Kremlin.
Well, yeah, okay. It was United Country UAT time by First Ukraine. Our guest was Maxim Iali, Senior Researcher Fellow at the Ukrainian Institute of World History.
Olivier Vedrine and Sergey Velichanskiy were working for you in the studio. Stay with us and we will show to you the real Ukraine.
Thank you for being with us. Have a good day and see you soon.